Joe, we're back.
Oh my God, we're back.
We're gonna try. I think the plan is that with your workaround, we are going to try to get the rest of season 2 done in a quick fashion. Have a little bit of a break. Maybe take off the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, and then kick off 2024 diving straight into season 3. I think that makes the most sense for us. And then, you have plenty of time for that thing to get fixed. But we also, like, for the people who are listening, we intended to record. So Joe and I have watched these episodes like 2-3 weeks ago, and we're pulling fresh off the top of our brains, but we're kicking off episode 19, The Rager. Do you know what is the special thing about this episode, Joe?
Tell me.
We are officially halfway through the entire series of the OC.
Oh God.
With this episode.
Shut up.
Yeah, so I mean, by that math, it would be almost exactly 2 years when we finish it all of doing this fun adventure down. Well, for you, memory lane. For me, just the nostalgia of my college years.
Wow.
And here we go. Let's dive into The Rager. So The Rager is the episode where we finally start to see things crumble for Troy in a big bad way, right? Like in previous episodes, it's been slight misunderstandings or him doing something that's kind of off, but like in his mind, it's a justified means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, we get to some old school OC stuff because someone almost dies in the Cohen's pool. So the setup of this episode is that they're going to throw a big ass party for Troy at Marissa's house, and what's supposed to be like the core 4 plus Troy suddenly turns into the Can't Hardly Wait party. It is like the party of the century here. Ryan is not helping the situation with Troy at the start of this episode. He's just... I've thought about this before. I've talked about this, I think, on the show before. Like, there is an element of when something goes wrong and you are hurt, right? Mm-hmm. Like, be it that your friend is doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The example I always use is drugs, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you have a friend who's been, abusing drugs for a really long time, and it's really put a strain on your friendship. And they finally get clean, and that's you're excited that they're clean, but you have a guard up, and there's no reason that you shouldn't have that guard up. But at a certain point, if that guard never starts to come down,
mm-hmm.
You're almost giving that person more of a reason to relapse, right? You're giving them this message of, I don't care, even if you do better, you will never fix this damage because you're a piece of shit and I don't love you. You know what I mean? Like, That's not what you're directly saying, but that is how it will be interpreted.
Have you ever watched Suits?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Yeah, there's a plot line in the second season of Suits that is very much a like character who is not new to the canon of the series, but it's the first time you actually like see this character in like he actually comes back, quote unquote comes back to the firm, and they treat him like a piece of shit. And for me, it's like, well, you kind of self-fulfilled the prophecy, right? Like you treated him like a villain the entire time. And so he was like, well, if you're not gonna believe that, then I'm just gonna do it.
Exactly. And I feel like Ryan, more than almost anybody, causes Trey to continue to go down the dark path that Trey goes, at least at the start of this episode. He is not giving him even a short rope
Yeah.
Just he's already ready to accuse him of pretty much everything. Um, Marissa and Seth decide to go visit Troy. Ryan really doesn't. And is this the episode? Yeah, this is the episode. My heart broke during this episode. So Marissa finds out that it's Troy's 21st birthday coming up. Ryan puts his foot down with Marissa and Troy,
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, don't you go hang out with him, which 100% means that she's going to ignore him
Mm-hmm.
and go hang out. And what this leads to is when Ryan shows up at Troy's house to find the drugs that he thinks that Troy has.
Mm-hmm.
Troy has the line, and to think when I saw you, I thought my brother's going to take me out to breakfast for my birthday.
Oh,
Like, that line is absolutely devastating, and that is an origin story line. Even though Ryan does have a change of heart, I think that that is the moment that Troy gets into his fuck it mindset that I'm sure will carry us to the end of this season. But like, holy crap, does that line hit in a big bad way.
yeah.
Now, while this is all happening, this is like the Marissa, Ryan, Troy triangle that's happening there. Seth and Zach are meeting the person who's supposed to be interested in their comic book, someone named Reed, who, shocker, is a girl who likes comic books. And for you Wet Hot American Summer fans, is played by the star of Wet Hot American Summer, who played Katie in that movie. So that made me get really excited. I was like, I know that winning smile anywhere. But already I'm like, well, this is going to be like the OC, I've noticed in just 2 seasons, has a real, well, this worked before, so let's just do that storyline a second time.
Right.
And we're clearly just getting into like Zach and Seth and Summer, but now there's Reed, and could it be Zach and Seth for like, it's all very much repetitive stories over and over and over and over and over again. While this is happening, Julie Cooper gets the information that because of the sex tape, she is no longer going to be on the cover of the Newport Living magazine, and she's totally fine with it. Or at least so she seems, because then she threatens to shoot Lance, which is another twist I didn't anticipate. And I must ask a question, Joe, and you can give me a yes or no, but has Julie Cooper just introduced the murder weapon for the end of this season?
Yeah, she Chekhov's gun it, is what you're asking me?
Yeah. Yeah, did she buy the gun that will ultimately be Troy's demise? I don't know. Trey's demise.
Troy, it all blends the same. I know if memory serves, because I've not rewatched beyond what we're doing for this recording session. No, it's not the same. But the very concept of a gun, right,
is there.
There. But like a lot has to happen to get it where it needs to go. Let's put it that way.
All right. Fair enough.
And those the Julie stuff doesn't intersect with the Trey stuff. Okay.
Good to know. So Trey shows up at Marissa's house. We get a very low energy 3-person surprise when he walks in the door. Kind of lame, won't lie. Wouldn't have won my heart and mind over, but Ryan is there, and that really makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time we see this party, there are just random strangers showing up. And you know, I wrote down, oh, fun, Coke is at this party. That shouldn't be the recipe for a relapse for both Trey or Marissa.
Yeah.
Like, just, it is insane. Marissa wanders into a 3-way happening in her bedroom at one point. Like, this party is off the wall. And all while this is happening, Julie Cooper is having a delightful time with Lance because she has concluded that Caleb is going to divorce her.
Yep.
And then Lance offers very subtly to murder Caleb for Julie Cooper. And I just wrote in all caps, are we going to have a murder subplot in this season?
Not just a murder it's not even really murder for hire, right? It's like
murder for revenge,
but like it's a little like Tanya Harding, like Galooly, that's what it's giving. But it's just, it also, like, this is a wild thing because it just like, hey, remember when I tried to blackmail you?
That's what I mean. This is a huge escalation from blackmail to like assassination offer.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's kind of all we get in this episode. Like I said, they find a girl drowning in a pool. She was a girl who was in a bedroom alone with Trey earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Trey confesses to being the person who gave the girl drugs. We all kind of draw the conclusion that, like, I drew the conclusion right away, like, he's probably doing this to keep Marissa out of jail because he didn't confess until the handcuffs came out for Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be true. Like he could have actually been the one who dealt the drugs and thought he'd get away with it, and then saw Marissa getting handcuffed and said, all right, well, let me just confess so that she doesn't take the hit for this. Or he could have been confessing to a crime he didn't commit. We will find out in the coming weeks on that one. But so far, I mean, you know what? Mostly a very fun episode, despite the almost death of a person in a pool.
Despite a drug overdose, a solicitation, murder for hire.
Well, especially knowing what the next two episodes have in store for me, this is about as fun as it's going to get, I think, until season 3.
Yeah.
Like,
they really up the darkness.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Let's talk about the music because, man, we had a couple weeks where there was not much of a music budget on this show, but that was not the case in this week's episode. So we get Of Montreal, Requiem for OMM. This is what happens when Summer's talking to Ryan about the comic book. I hope I wrote that right. She's talking this. Summer talked to Ryan about a comic book, or did I write Ryan instead of Seth? This is the downside of it being all together. 3 weeks. It's all blending together. The Obscurities, Stop Dragging Me Down plays when Summer and Marissa are planning to throw a party for Trey. The Churches, Under the Milky Way plays when Julie meets Lance at the bar. Daft Punk's Technologic plays when Trey saves Seth from a beatdown at the party. And now here we go with some real hits. Whitesnake's Here I Go Again plays as Julie Cooper and Lance dance at the bar. LCD sound system, Daft Punk is playing at my house, plays when Summer bumps into Reed at the bathroom and finds out the truth of who Reed is. Poison's Every Rose Has Its Thorn plays as Lance and Julie share a slow dance. And then finally, Way Out West Melt plays as Ryan and Marissa talk on her bed before all the shit goes down. Joe, I'm going to say it right now. For me, the song of the week has to go to Whitesnake, Here I Go Again. I love Julie Cooper and her 80s hair metal obsessed ass.
I'm going just because I love the song. Okay, I don't care about why or how it fits into the like narrative structure, the diegesis of everything. I just fucking love Technologic by Daft Punk. Just like me laying down, being song. Just like a gay boy listening to tech, like, yes, give it to me. Like,
man, Daft Punk making the soundtrack of robots fucking since 1998. Joe, this is very exciting because we are officially doing pop culture promo where there is no strike anymore.
Yeah,
writers and actors. Everything is good to go. The path is clear. And I want to talk about something that the OC is probably a huge inspiration on. After almost 20 years, the second season of one of my favorite cartoons dropped on Max this year, and it did not get as much attention and praise as it deserved. Clone High season 2 on Max now. Absolutely hysterical. It takes a little bit to adjust to the voice acting being different, but for those of you who don't know what Clone High is, Joe, are you familiar with Clone High? Is this one that's
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think
Clone
you've
High,
talked about Clone High before.
Yeah, so Clone High was created by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who like went on to be some of the biggest creative minds in Hollywood, creating like the 21 Jump Street movies, Cloudy with a Chance, the Lego movie. But their very first outing was this weird, obscure MTV cartoon called Clone High that was produced by Bill Lawrence. So the whole first season, this is like the fun fact about this show. The whole first season was produced at the hospital where they filmed Scrubs. Bill Lawrence converted one of the rooms in the hospital to be a sound studio. So almost all of the voice acting is Scrubs regulars.
Okay.
So they would just grab random cast members and be like, Zach Braff, we need someone to play Paul Revere for a scene. And he would just like come down. He would take the elevator down to where the sound studio is and like do a few lines as Paul Revere. And they'd be like, oh, we need someone to be George Washington Carver. Send Donald Faison down. Like, so if you're a Scrubs fan, it's a great like combination piece. But the concept is that a mad scientist has decided to clone all of the greatest world leaders in history to try to save the world. And while doing it, they have to grow at a normal rate. So they build a town called Cloneville, and there's a high school called Clone High. And now all of these clones are high schoolers. And from that point, every episode is a parody of a very special episode of a teen drama show.
Oh, God. Okay.
But with all of the characters being like Abe Lincoln. So like Abe Lincoln's the geek who's in love with his best friend, Joan of Arc, who's the goth girl. Joan of Arc is the goth girl who's in love with her best friend, Abe Lincoln, who's the geek, but he's in love with the most popular girl in school, which is Cleopatra, and Cleopatra is dating JFK, who's the most popular boy in school. And then what got them in a lot of trouble was that Mahatma Gandhi is a crazy party animal best friend to Abe Lincoln, and people did not like seeing Gandhi depicted as a hard drinking party kid. And like the episodes are so perfect. Like every episode is so good at capturing that OC Beverly Hills 90210 like over the top teen drama. So like I remember one of the episodes starts off where they're just like, tonight on Clone High, one of your favorite clones dies. And it's like, it keeps flashing the 5 main characters and then a character you've never seen before in the history of the show. And of course, that's the clone that dies.
Of course.
So like they have to like very quickly introduce the character just to kill him. And it's Ponce de Leon, and he's voiced by Luke Perry and is drawn to look exactly like Luke Perry from like Beverly Hills 90210. Like it's so smart. It's so witty. Lasted 5 episodes on MTV, got canceled, had this cult following for like 20 years. And as Phil Lord and Chris Miller have like just ascended into making like the biggest financial successes in Hollywood for the last like 15 years, doing like the Amazing Spider-Man or the Across the Spider-Verse movies and all that stuff. Every interview, they've said our only goal is to become famous enough to bring Clone High back to television. Like it's almost like it was their baby, and the fact that thing got stamped out, they were just like, we will become famous in spite of this, and we will bring back the thing that we created and cared about, because everything else has been adaptations. This is their only original concept show. Yeah. They did a lot of like 2023 changes. So, having a white woman voice Cleopatra, no longer the case. So they got someone who was of the proper descent to voice that character, to replace that voice character. Very creatively, though, the actress who voiced Cleopatra became the adopted mother to Cleopatra. They're like, okay, well, we'll just, she can be adopted by anybody. So they made a white woman that is Cleopatra's foster mom. And then Gandhi is completely written out of the show. Like, just they're slight spoiler alert, but they all get cryogenically frozen at the end of the first season. And there's this ongoing joke where they're just like, I feel like somebody's missing, and then it just cuts to just a Gandhi frozen alone in like the area where everyone got frozen. That's kind of just how they've written him completely out of the show for safety's sake. But it was a really good season. It was really good. I think they're going to do 2 or 3 more seasons of this on Max, but it's hard to say because Max, at the time that we're recording this, just announced that their Looney Tunes film is just not coming out. They're going to Batgirl the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner movie that they made with John Cena, even though it had huge test audience responses. So, like, who knows? Studio heads be crazy.
Yeah.
Is what we learned over the last year.
Yeah, I think I saw, I think it was Naomi Ekperigin, the comedian, posted a screenshot of an article about the end of the SAG strike, and it was basically like the moral of the story of Hot Strike Summer was that the Hollywood dream machine is just a machine, is just an industry that grinds people out, and like all of the magic is kind of gone. Like it has exposed, if you will, the fact that like people can no longer suspend the disbelief of like why things happen the way they do. They just know that it all has to do with the fact that it's a giant capitalist system.
Yeah. Well, it also brings to question, like, I think about this a lot with doing One Hit Thunder. Like, it is easier to become a one-hit wonder than it is to become an artist who has a long-lasting public career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you think of like even like groups that maybe had 2 or 3 or sometimes like 5 hits, like look at Hootie and the Blowfish, right? Like Hootie and the Blowfish is a band who on their first album had like 5 or 6 songs that were massive top 40 songs that could not repeat that same success for the rest of their career. And the only other time that they've even sniffed a chart was when Darius Rucker went solo. Like, it is so hard to sustain that. And you look at like actors and directors and writers, and like doing horror movie night, sometimes we find like this movie was financially successful, but director got sick and wasn't able to do anything for 2 or 3 years. And in those 2 or 3 years, the window and doors closed fully. Like, that was just it. Like, like you have to, I think a lot about like wrestling. You find these wrestlers who will continue to work with like sincere back and shoulder injuries because they know that there is no guarantee that the push that they're getting at that moment will still be there.
Yeah.
When they come back from recovery. It is a machine that, like you said, it grinds up people without a care or an ounce of empathy. And to a certain extent, like, we, the consumers, are just as bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
We, the consumers, decide, oh, that's old, I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we are so quick to snarkily write off everybody the second that they are passe. I don't love Imagine Dragons, but Imagine Dragons is literally getting the Nickelback treatment right now of just like, well, this is the big popular rock band, so fuck them. They're the worst band of all time. Everybody who listens to it's an idiot. Be like, I remember hearing the comedian say, like, everyone hates Kenny G, but somehow he sold however million records, so someone's buying it and lying. Like, so, we're a fickle group of human beings sometimes, Joe. But what's not fickle is what your pop culture pick could be.
Sorry, I was last comment, then I'll go to my thing. We are very concerned with like not letting people have their joy, right? It's like it's so much easier to shit on something that's popular because it's popular, but at the end of the day, like, we know that like there are people who love it, and just like let them have it, right? Like, is Kenny G like Is Kenny G my favorite jazz artist? No. Is Kenny G a jazz artist? Yes. Question mark. Am I grateful for him for bringing the sound of the soprano saxophone to everybody? Sure. Why not? Besides band geeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. I don't think that if I heard Kenny G and didn't know it was Kenny G, I wouldn't think it was anything different than any other jazz music that I was listening to anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I just be like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it was just because he was the most famous one and he had that ridiculous look.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, this guy sucks.
He was a white guy with like a perm. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so my pop culture thing is there's a lot of things that I on the networks that have been that we're striking against, right, that I haven't watched yet. So like I want to talk about like Gen V. I want to talk about Upload, but I just haven't made it there. And like part of me is just kind of like waiting for like when the longer winter holiday vacation comes for me, so that way I can like just like power through and power through and power through. I'm just gonna like lay veg and enjoy, but I don't have to like worry about getting interrupted, and it can just be a complete
there's something very enjoyable about literally just plopping your ass on the couch, hitting play on a TV show, and not getting up from the couch.
Yeah.
Like that level of plowing through, not like, oh, I'm just going to stomach this to get it over with.
Yeah. So, with that being said, my pop culture pick this week is actually an album. It is the album. It came out in like end of May, early June of this year. It is by Broadway legend Idina Menzel, and it is called Drama Queen.
I think you got that name incorrect.
Adele Dazeem, the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem. And she released an album that's essentially a disco album.
Ooh.
And it's very good. Like there's songs on it that are just like, she has like the perfect voice. We're also living in like the Kylie Minogue renaissance right now, so she kind of has like a similar sound as like the disco album from Kylie Minogue. But it's definitely her own thing, and like it is so much fun. It is danceable. There's a song in there called Dramatic, where like I just want like a drag queen to come out and do like a song, because it's like talking about how she's so dramatic, and I'm like, I just want, it's a perfect like it's like a perfect gay disco album that I don't think I knew I needed.
Love it. I will have to check that out, because I think in the last 2 years I've really come to appreciate original, like the old school disco of the 70s.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden I found myself enjoying like Sister Scissors and all of these other like
Scissor
disco
Sisters.
adjacent. Yes. These disco adjacent bands from the last 20 years. So I'm sure I will adore that just as much.
Yeah, you will.
Now, what I'm not sure if I'll enjoy is the next couple episodes of the OC. So let's stay tuned, and we'll be back next week with even more of these white people problems.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.